looking a little swarthy. It's part of my new look for 2018. I just thought I would start off with a little college tour, a little tour of the new office here. So note the artistic panning shot of the magnificent high-budget artwork, photos of posters that kids won't understand the allusions to. This is our tutoring room. You can see several of our chairs set up and a whiteboard. You can also see this magnificent view of the water. It's a nice view, especially if you look past the power lines and the electromagnetic radiation and possibly brain cancer. Okay, so here's, I'm just going to go out of this. Here's the magnificent entryway, which is not quite ready for prime time, but will be in weeks according to my landlord. And this is our other office, which is typically where I meet with clients. Comfy couch and Pearl's diplomas, some shameless self-promotion, my diplomas representing 6 figures of student loans, very clean desk, my mixology certificate in the far corner over there, that's important. That's the tour. Let's go back and get going with a little college coffee talk. There's the tennis center across the street, just in case, I don't know, just in case some of our kids need to hit a few balls. Oh, here's the bookshelf that is consists only of books that I've written. No ego problems there. Okay, so let me set this down, make a quick adjustment. Coming on over for a little college coffee talk. Welcome. Let me just get this ready. Okay, so here we are. Another edition of our weekly free coaching session, which happens every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. A little chilly in this room today. Ironically, my landlord owns a heating business, so I don't expect the cool temperatures to last inside here, but I am a little cold. So the purpose of College Coffee Talk is not just to amuse myself, but it's to answer any of your burning college questions. Any questions about getting into college, about getting money from college, about negotiating with colleges, you name it. And we've always gotten a fair amount of lively questions each week that I have done this. So please feel free to fire away any of your questions. Say hi. I see Fran checking in. Hello, Fran. And if you're watching this on replay, you can also pop your questions into the comment section as well. So what's happening in today, or this time of year, in the whole college scene, the whole college shindig? Sort of a hurry up and wait type of situation for many high school seniors who have applied and are starting to hear back from a lot of their colleges, but haven't heard from, many people have not heard from all of their colleges, and many people have not received money yet, all the money they're going to get from colleges that they have heard from. So it's kind of a weird thing, because there's this big push and a lot of stress and a lot of pressure to to get everything in by November 1st or December 1st or whatever, but then there's like a long awkward pause that can last until March sometimes, where you don't really hear back from a lot of schools. And I always get these questions from clients like, well, what should we be doing? What should we do now? I feel like we should be doing something. I feel like I'm not doing enough. And my answer was always, well, other than verifying that your colleges have received everything that you sent in, meaning your college applications, recommendations, ACT and SAT scores, financial aid applications like the FAFSA and the CSS profile, other than that, there's really not a lot to do. Sometimes parents will say, should my kid continue to reach out to admissions just to let them know that they really want to go there? And I'll say, you don't want to bombard them with any information that is not new to them. So if you're just emailing or calling and saying, hey, I still want to come there, looking forward to hearing from you in a few weeks, don't do that. But if you have new information, such as a new award or accolade or some sort of update, it's a good idea to say, hey, I just wanted you to include this in my file. I just won a debate tournament, a national debate tournament last week, and so on and so forth. So there's a difference between the types of communications that you can offer. In terms of high school juniors, so now I'm seeing an uptick in parents of high school juniors starting to reach out to us, because I think it's this time of year, January, heading into February, things start to become a lot more tangible, and you're sort of entering the phase of, oh my God, this is really happening. And I think a lot of that's prompted by getting back some ACT or some SAT results, starting to plan some college visits, preferably over February break or over April break, because those are the best times I think the best times to go see colleges, because they're in session. A lot of people, they have a hard time finding time to see all the colleges that they want to see, and that's totally normal. Don't beat yourself up over it. No one can see every college, and if you have to go over the summer, that's better than not seeing a college at all. But bear in mind that you might get sort of a twisted impression of what that college is really like over the summer, because it might be a ghost town. So if you have to go see schools over the summer, that's great. Try to keep an open mind, and then if you like something, I would suggest that you go back in the fall when it's in session, when you're a senior. But in terms of juniors, what they should be doing now is starting to plan some college visits, starting to assemble a large list of potential colleges that is not only about the aspirational colleges that are really hard to get into. It's really it's important to see schools that you may not be that psyched to go to. So every year, I have conversations along the lines of, hey, Andy, we're thinking about going up to Boston to visit a couple of colleges. Do you have any tips? And I'll say, well, sure. What schools do you think about seeing? And I'll get answers like, well, we're going to see Harvard and MIT. And then I'll quickly refamiliarize myself, even though I know the answer, with the kids' grades and their scores. And I hear this from kids who have like B+, A- averages and 1300s on the ACT or on the SAT, and the equivalent on the ACT. And I'll say something like, look, I'm not saying don't go visit those colleges, but maybe you want to round out that list a little bit and see some other schools that you might have a better shot at getting into. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is you don't want to fall in love only with the super reach schools that are unlikely to let you in. And I'm not saying don't apply there. I'm just saying the super hard schools, statistically speaking, I think Harvard admits like less than 5%. Those are super hard to get into. But I would never say don't apply. However, sometimes if you don't show, and this depends on the school, but if you don't demonstrate enough interest to a school, that's going to be a lot easier for you to get into if you look at your academic credentials and how they stack up against everyone else, who the school admitted the previous year. They may end up deferring you or denying you because they don't think that you have a genuine interest in them if you're just applying but you never visited or you never expressed other types of interest. So I wrote about that recently in an email, I think maybe in an article. But the gist of it is that the schools very frequently will protect their yields, the ratio of kids that they admit versus who actually matriculate, and that's important to them because it indirectly affects their rank. It, I think, somewhat directly affects their ability to raise money for when they go build the next $45 million aquatic facility. By the way, it's not just lazy rivers; it's water parks. I saw an article last week about how LSU has a water park that is spelled out LSU. It's in the shape of the letters. So anyway, that's why it's important to make an effort to see all types of schools, safety, target, and reach, not just the reach schools. Okay, so if you're just joining us, I see a bunch of people here. Please feel free to say hi in the comments section. And if you have any questions at all, this is not a lecture. This is really more of an interactive chat if you have any college questions about getting into college, about paying for college, about test prep. So we've had a bunch of people reaching out to us about test prep recently because there are tests coming up in February for, I believe that's the ACT, and then there's an SAT in March, and then there's dates the rest of the year. This is the first summer that the SAT is going to be offered. I believe that's in July. And I think the ACT is going to be in August again. So if you have a junior, this is a good time to be getting a little more serious. Although it's hard to squeeze in the time, I won't lie, but this is a good time to prep and assume that you're going to take, one of your tests at least 2 or 3 times before you finish it. And that it'd be great to finish everything this year as a junior, even if that means taking that July or August test, because once you get back to school as a senior and you've got classes and extracurriculars and maybe college applications and essays and all that type of stuff, then it gets very dicey. So do your best to finish up your testing in your junior year. I got 2 other tips, I guess. First of all, try not to take the June SAT. I think there's an ACT also, but whatever's offered in June, that's typically the worst time out of the whole year, according to Marissa, our main tutor, because that is when there's finals and APs and all that. So it's hard to also pile in your standardized testing. Second tip is in terms of how do you know which test to focus on. Marissa sees that there's a fair amount of kids who do better on one test versus the other. I am personally of the opinion that most kids do about the same, or 70% do about the same. I don't know the right answer, but what I would tell you is you need to take one of each under simulated or actual conditions. And then at the end of that, after it's scored, and you're able to see, number one, which one you did better on, and number two, if you did about the same but you felt better on one of them, and that's the one to focus on and take that another 2 times or so, and then that's it. So those are my comments on testing. All right, who is here? I see Joanne Abosh. Hello, Joanne. Martin Flatley. Hello, thanks for joining us. Sheila says, thanks for doing this. I've learned so much. All right, I appreciate that. Good. Yeah, this is, by the way, if you have an adult, well, not an adult beverage, any type of beverage like I'm enjoying, I'm going with tea this morning because I've been a little under the weather, which is partially why I'm dressed in this swarthy manner. The other reason is just laziness. I hope you're having a nice morning here, and I love doing these, and I love answering your questions, and this is completely 100% about answering your questions. So if any of you guys want to fire away something about, preferably college related, although we could talk about NFL playoffs, that would be great. So Sheila, thank you. Patty Schwartz, who's is welcome. Hello, Patty, to you. Kathleen, all right, we're chasing merit aid. I'm wondering how low is too low, meaning I'm wondering about the quality of a school, and will that prove to be a hindrance to getting into a good graduate or law school? Thoughts? Yeah, that is a great question. I had a client here who's in the office last week who came in to retain us, and it actually squarely dealt with that scenario. So it's very interesting. So mom and dad are both Harvard-educated doctors. Their older daughter, who's graduating college this year, she came in sort of on behalf of her younger brother, who's in 11th grade, who's working with us now. And so I thought that was great. She was home on break, and they brought her in, and she actually brought the tax returns. She was the one who was organizing everybody. So what we were talking about was exactly that. In terms of his list of schools, he's a super bright guy. I'm sure he's going to knock it out of the park with his test scores, and his grades are superior, and his extracurriculars are really good too. So we were talking about this concept of, well, if it's, I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it that you're going to go to grad school? And he said 8. I said, okay, that's pretty certain in my world. So then what it makes sense to do is, exactly what Kathleen was asking me about, is to sort of be a big fish in a small pond, or at least consider that because of two reasons. One is money. You're more likely to get merit scholarships, going low, which, that's accurate. I don't think I like that term, but that is accurate. But also, the likelihood of having a higher GPA is much more likely, I should say, at the lesser school, the easier school to get into, as opposed to the college where you have to beg, borrow, scratch and claw, etc., your way to get into. So the older sister, who's graduating GW, was kind of nodding her head, and I said, you look like you're agreeing with me, because I'm always looking for people for people to agree with me, and asking leading questions. You look like you agree with me, right? So awkward. So what she said was, she went to GW on at least a 50% scholarship. I think it was actually more. And she, so far, is 2 for 2 with med school. She got into SUNY Downstate, which is super, super hard to get into. She got into UMass Medical School, where 2 of my friends from high school actually graduated, and that is really hard to get into also. And she said, when I was in high school, I won the Siemens research competition, and it was either her partner or just one of her friends who had very similar credentials. She ended up going to college at Columbia, and she was going to be pre-med also. But she changed her major because she wasn't doing well enough in her GPA specifically. So she was thinking about either going to dental school or something else. But she said that's exactly what happened. We were about the same academically in high school. My GPA in college is much higher, but our MCATs are the same and all that. But she's giving up the idea of going to medical school because of her GPA at Columbia. Now that doesn't actually. There could have been something else that happened, but I see this type of fact pattern all the time. So I don't think that, unless you're going to, some, I don't know, I don't even know if it matters. I was going to say that community college, but there's even an argument for that in terms of going to grad school. But I don't think there is such a thing as too low. If you want to, throw out some colleges to me that you're thinking about, just private message me so we don't insult anyone inadvertently. But I don't know if there really is something that's too low when you're talking about going to grad school. Okay, great question though, and I get that a lot. I wish more people would think that way. So you get a gold star. Okay, hello to Katie Middleman. All right, cool. Hello, Katie. She's a very bright son who's getting in almost everywhere. Lisa Carfora. All right, good morning. Do you think it's possible to get my son's choice college where he was accepted to increase their scholarship amount based on a larger scholarship offer from a second choice college? Okay, it is possible, and I see that every year. It doesn't mean that I can promise you that, but we actually I teach a class on that because we've gotten such great results over the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years, where I sort of really made this appeal and negotiation process into a real system. So if I'll post that here shamelessly. It's appealsclass.com, but I'm going to tell you the gist of it. The gist of it is you have to kind of monitor your tone, but the gist of the argument is you're really my first choice college. However, we're being forced to consider other schools for financial reasons only. I would wait until you heard back from every other potential school, and if it's a school that competes with your top choice school, and they gave you an offer that makes your out of pocket less expensive, then I would certainly try to make that appeal. There's really no downside. There's one exception which I'll talk about, but there's really no downside to asking for more money. It's not like they're going to say, no, we're not giving you more money and you can't come here anymore. We're rescinding our offer. So don't worry about that. But if you go about the ask, the appeal in even if the school says we don't match, then you'll be okay. There's no downside. You won't make anyone angry or anything like that. I go over all that in this class. The link I just posted, appealsclass.com. I give sample letters of appeal, including one that covers that scenario, because I write a lot of those types of letters. And it's definitely worth it's worth taking the class, which I think is only $97, but it's definitely worth, even if you don't take the class, it's worth trying because there's no downside. Now, that little teaser I said before, that side comment about there's really no downside. There's one case, and this is a client of ours who came to us after this horrible thing happened. Pearl was talking to her yesterday, as a matter of fact. But we do have one situation. I have heard firsthand of one situation where the client should not have asked for more money. So, in her case, she had worked with another person who does financial aid forms 2 years ago, and she had not filled them out to the letter accurately. I think in her defense, the spirit of what she disclosed was accurate, but in terms of the black and white and the four corners of a financial aid application, it was not accurate. But so what I mean is, she had certain assets that CDs that she had borrowed against for business purposes. So what the other person who did her financial aid forms told her was, you know what, that's just going to be too confusing to explain because you've tapped out, you've borrowed 100% against them. Just don't disclose them at all. All right. So her kid got into a great school, and he got a $15,000 per year award. So then she went back to the school and asked, well, can you possibly take another look at our award and maybe increase it? And what this college did was scrutinize a little bit more closely what she'd already submitted, and what they noticed was that even though these CDs had been borrowed against, they still kicked off some interest income, which flowed through her tax return. But on the FAFSA, on the financial aid form and the CSS profile, there was no mention of these assets. So the college was in the position of saying, well, where'd you get this? You didn't disclose something to us, because this interest can't have just fallen out of the sky. So they ended up taking away her money. So in the absence of that, so with scholarship offers, that's never the case. But if you've done something, kind of funky with need-based financial aid, I would not go back and ask for more money. So I would say just because you don't want to open the door to something horrible like this happening. So I'm a little superstitious and gun shy in general. There are a few occasions each year where I'll tell a client, look, I know you moved money around totally legitimately and above board, and you followed our suggestions and all that, but I still think you got a great award. Let's not push the envelope. And 99 out of 100 times, that's what the client does, and they're happy with what they got. Okay, so definitely ask. Good question. All right, I see some more stuff coming in here. Katie, thanks for the shout out. Looking forward to the end of this whole process. It never ends, Katie. Spoiler alert, it never ends. Okay. Michelle Mabel, favorite fake Facebook name. With appealing for more merit, is waiting until you hear from your final schools on April 1st too late to negotiate? There is sort of a school thought that a lot of the money is given out kind of first come, first served. I don't think that I'm just trying to clean my glasses here. I don't think that is completely accurate. But out of superstition, if you've gotten in most of the awards or most of the awards that you expect to get, and the schools that you haven't heard back from are really not likely to give you an award, that's not jumping the gun. Then I would start a little bit earlier, but generally I like to have all of the awards in. So thank you for that question. That is important. All right, Jeff Cuzzy, New North High School. Thanks. Yes, yeah, big game this weekend. Very, very nervous. Very hard being a Patriots fan in New York, by the way. All right, Maria Klevinsky, daughter accepted to her choice school, which awarded merit aid as well. The school hasn't specified where the merit will go. Assuming towards tuition fees, daughter will likely get the $5,500 loan, and we will help her with the rest. I have heard from others that if merit goes toward tuition fees, books, then it won't be counted as income to her. Is that correct? Then for the remainder of that we pay, how much and how much do we claim on our taxes? Got it. Our portion that we help her with will not be coming from any 529, etc. All right, so I'll give you my non-CPA answer. because I'm not a CPA. So this is definitely a question for your accountant. But the gist of it is that scholarships don't count as income because they come off the top. They're discounting, they're discounting tuition and et cetera, like you're asking me. So I wouldn't worry about that whatsoever. In terms of the second part of your question, let me just read that one more time. The amount that what you pay. Yeah, so how much do you claim on your taxes? You may not be able to claim any of it. You're talking about, I think, the Education, American Opportunity Credit. Those amounts are pretty low. They're only a few $1,000s. So I don't think that's going to affect anything. You'll be able to, if you qualify to be able to take that deduction, then it's not going to matter. So don't worry about that. But I totally defer to your accountant. I don't know if there's any accountants who are on this broadcast right now or maybe in replay who could answer that question. But for the most part, it's very unusual for scholarships to be counted as income. It's more about a discount. So that should not be an issue. And you mentioned you don't have a 529, but just to address that, or you said the money's not coming from a 529. If someone has a 529 and they transmit the funds from that 529, there's no, when they pull the money out, that is done tax-free. That's one of the advantages of having a 529, which can be good or bad, depends on each family's situation, because they can be great or they can hurt your chances of getting money. So I was talking to some friends of ours down in Florida yesterday, and they have a daughter who goes to school there, but she's thinking about potentially going to school up north, playing lacrosse, maybe at a Division III school, and the old NESCAC, New England Small College Athletic Conference, which I am an alumnus of, a bench warming alumnus of, and and they have the Florida prepaid, which is also under Section 529. And they put some money away, and he was wondering, the dad was wondering, or the mom and the dad were wondering, what when you pull money out of that to pay for a different college outside of the state of Florida, then what happens? And the answer is you get credited the amount of Florida state school tuition, and I think that's an average number. So if you put in $5,000 but tuition is $10,000, you get the credit of $10,000. And that is applied toward the other school, and it's not income when you pull money out. So, a little fun fact there. I doubt anyone asked me that, but sometimes I can't help myself. Okay. All right, let's go to Courtney. All right, Courtney is still waiting. You're waiting for the appeal. I got you. They said they don't usually receive requests for appeals or additional financial aid. Yeah, okay. Because everyone has enough money. That's why they don't get those requests. They're asking for more than half my income in Parent Plus loan for his first year. Holy cow, Lord help us. Go Frogs. TCU, the Horned Frogs. They have, every school has their own version of how they calculate how much aid they're going to give you. There's a standard formula, and then they apply that formula differently. And some schools have more money than others. I'm just going to see if I can do this on the fly right now. What the how generous Texas Christian is. Courtney, I don't know if you ever did this. I'm going to the College Board Big Future site. I'm just typing in Texas Christian University Big Future site, and I am going to, and I covered this in my appeals class also, Courtney, which I know you're a student of. You're near the top of your class, by the way. Get ready for that valedictorian speech. And they meet 71% of financial need, which is not terrible, but it's not great. And the average award is more than what they offered you, $29,339. So, yeah, as you know, you definitely got hosed. Out of that $29,000, 70% of it should be free. So, that should really be about almost $21,000 of that should be free. So, you really have a very strong argument, like we talked about on the phone last week, and keeping my fingers crossed. And that is so funny. I mean, it's not really funny. It's outrageous that they're telling you that they don't usually get offers or requests for more money. Every school does. So that's kind of manipulative type of thing. I don't like that. All right. So what else we got here? I think I skipped someone. Martin. Okay, Martin Flatley. How do you know when a school's merit award is their best and final offer? By the way, I'm answering questions, so if you're just joining us, like I see Laura, cousin Laura, please, well, in the off chance, Laura, that you have something, substantive to ask me about, please feel free. But everyone, feel free to drop a question in comments. And that's what I'm doing here. Every Friday for 1 hour, I am answering college questions. So I see we have about 17 or so people on currently, which is great. And I stay on until 10 o'clock or until we run out of questions. So far, I haven't run out of questions early. So keep them coming, and I'll stick around. You got me for a little bit more. So thank you. All right. So how do you know when you've hit the ceiling, the final offer? Generally, it's really quick, So if you get an award from a school and you appeal it, and they come back and say, we're denying the appeal, that's usually pretty final. On occasion, very few occasions, I've been able to go over that initial person's head with some compelling circumstances that were not quite addressed by or reviewed properly by that initial reviewer. So it's all the way to the head of the financial aid department. But those have to be really compelling circumstances, and that is typically something along the lines of, I know our income was really high on the financial aid forms that we completed this year, but they're based on numbers from 2 years ago. However, my world has fallen apart since then. I got laid off from my job, and this, that, and the other thing. So those are pretty severe circumstances. Or we had all these crazy medical expenses that weren't covered by our health insurance plan, and we've been out of pocket, because I got really sick or something, something like that. Those are all super, very, very unusual very compelling, extenuating circumstances that also directly bear on your ability to pay for college. Contrast that with some of the BS letters that I come up with. I have a client of mine who's Karen, who's been a client of ours for years, and she's actually just up the street. And I don't want to, I'm not going to give away any confidences of hers. I don't think she'd care. But we were really stretching an appeal before, because her daughter is a terrific athlete. She's a lacrosse player. She's getting a 50% ride to a really, really expensive college on the Mid-Atlantic Eastern Seaboard corridor. And she's still asking for more money, but on paper they don't, they have a very substantial income, a few sources of income, and they're not going to get anything. And our argument is yeah, I know, but it's really off by a little bit. Things are a little bit tougher. So I don't think she's going to get more money, but we're trying. There's no harm in trying. But once you get to the point where they're saying, okay, here's some more money, either no, we're not going to give you any more money, it's usually dead. And if they say, okay, here's a revised award, here's another $5,000, beat it, you're usually done. So it's usually one round. It's usually pretty quick. But thank you. Good question. I hardly ever talk about that, so I appreciate that, Mr. Flatley. All right. Courtney, yes, he did that after the video. I think that was looking at the College Board, looking at generosity. Okay, good. Yeah, his grant was pretty high, right? So that's probably pretty close to the maximum amount, but I still think there's room for more. So I'd have to do the numbers again, but I remember thinking you definitely had a case for some more. Michelle, will merit aid money run out by April? Yeah, I don't think it does. I mean, that is excuse me, that is certainly a fear that I hear repeated a lot. I think I'll put it this way: there's so much money involved that it's very unlikely for colleges to actually run out. But out of superstition, I think maybe I would feel a little pressured to wrap things up earlier. But you kind of have to feel out if you're likely to get more offers from other schools that compete with that school, and you haven't received those offers. It's worth waiting. But if you are waiting on a couple schools that you don't expect offers from, then I would press ahead. And but the other side of the argument, or at least my experience, is that we've had really successful results of negotiations that get awarded. Revised awards have come in March and April, and sometimes even after the May 1st housing deadline. So it's it's kind of a game of chicken a little bit, but for the most part, yeah, I might feel a little pressure to try to wrap things up early, but but it depends on what you've already gotten in and what you expect. Okay, great question. These are fun for me. Pam, go Pats. Yes, all right. Courtney, thank you. You're welcome. Hi, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's anything we can do. This is really it's more than just a business for us. There's a lot of ways to make money. Pearl and I talk about this a lot. Usually after she's like bitching and moaning about how much work she has, but because she's not here and I can say that. But there's a lot of ways to make money. And we have friends who have different jobs and they're in different businesses or whatever. And there's businesses that are just like financial district, Wall Street type jobs, and those are great. I'm nothing against them, but I think when you do a good job there, it's a different feeling than when you work with people like Courtney or families that really need the help and they're stressed out, and you can do a decent job for them. It's a different type of feeling. It's a different type of emotional capital that we're paid in. So that really is, as cynical and sarcastic as I am, that really is important to us, and that makes us feel really good about what we do for a living, and it helps us pay the bills too. So it's really got two important things for us. Okay, so if you don't have any more questions, then I'll be done. I'll let you go about the rest of your morning. I still see a lot of people on, but if this is a good opportunity. All this hour is every Friday is about trying to help you without charging you for answer your questions, because last year in 2017 we had I was just looking at my numbers specifically about how much friggin' taxes we're gonna have to pay this year, but that's not important. And I was looking at how we spend our time and different things we're trying to accomplish this year. One of which is we're trying to really build up our tutoring and ACT and SAT business, both here in the classroom as well as online. We're doing a lot of Skype. Marissa has clients from she's one in Iowa. She's got one in I think Nebraska. She's got one in I want to say, I don't know if it's California, some other faraway land. Which is really cool. I'm also in the process of redoing. I just sent it off to be edited. Redoing my financial aid book, How to Pay Wholesale for College, because a lot of stuff has changed since I wrote the last edition 3 years ago. So there's been changes in the financial aid rules and the timing of everything. And there's the new New York State education scholarship, Excelsior, that came out. Plus, I had to add about 93 footnotes that are just total useless, wise-ass comments. That's really changed a lot. As I sat there in my basement typing, like laughing at my own jokes. But another thing was, I spent a lot of time on the phone, one-on-one, with people who were just kind of picking my brain, and which is fine because I allowed it, but it was too much. So instead of with very few exceptions. Meaning, if you go to a presentation live or a webinar and then you have questions, there's a limited window to book a one-on-one with me, particularly if you're interested in working with us. But otherwise, I couldn't do as many as I did last year. So this year, we're doing these free, no obligation. It doesn't matter if you are interested in working with us, to becoming one of our premier clients or not. This is really for everyone, just to ask questions about their own scholarships, financial aid, college admissions, tutoring, whatever, and I'll do my best to answer them. So that's what we're doing every Friday. Okay. All right. So, Katie, thumbs up. Courtney, Katie, scroll up for honors college question if you can. Might be okay. Now we might be scrolling down for me. Fran, feeling like the middle child. Fran, I said hi to you right in the beginning. You were the first one on. You're like the first child. Martin, deferred to regular decision at a private college. Does this mean merit award will be lower if he is ultimately accepted? That's a great question. The answer is that it's likely, but not a definite. And I have seen that usually that is the case because being deferred indicates that a school isn't dying to have you come there. But we had a kid maybe it was 2 years ago, who was deferred to a really prestigious school, Carnegie Mellon, and we had the same type of exchange, excuse me, back and forth with his parents about, well, does this mean that even if he gets in somehow by some miracle that we're not going to be able to afford to go there? And I said, usually, same answer, that's the case. So he did a few things to try to get himself off the deferred list, which mostly consists of emailing or even calling the admissions officer and expressing how interested you still are in coming, as well as updating. He was, I think, he was involved with drama stuff. I think he was like a stage person, and that's what he wanted to study in college, like stagecraft, behind the scenes type stuff. And he, I think, updated them on a new show that he just completed. I think he might have even sent some video clips and all that. And then they sent, what was interesting was Carnegie Mellon then sent back a letter saying, if we admit you, this is what your financial aid award will look like, which is very odd, and it was very generous also. And the gist of the letter was, is this something that's acceptable to you if we let you off the wait list? So, it was a great award, and they said yes, and then he got off the wait list. So that's unusual. I've definitely seen that happen before, but that's the most recent one. I think that was 2 years ago. So Providence, they may decide, okay, you're in, we're not giving you money, or they may decide you're in, and we're having kind of a hard time filling our seats this year, which they're not one of those schools typically that I hear that about. So here's some money. So it's not, you're definitely not dead. So, but do what if you haven't already, do what I recommended about trying to get yourself off the wait list. Reach out to admissions. Super question. Okay. Katie and Fran know each other. That is so funny. Fran saying I skipped my question. Jesus, tough crowd. Okay. Well, I know I made this look easy, but it's really not. So let me go down to high maintenance Fran. And, that's a long question. Okay. I missed a bunch of questions. Joanna saying, where is Pearl? Spaz, before I get to Fran, Pearl's out power walking with her friend Mary. And she usually comes in on College Talk Tuesdays, but I can't, so far I'm 0 for 5 getting her to join me here for College Coffee Talk. But thanks. I like having at least one get-in on every Friday when I do this. I don't know, Joanna, if you were aware, but last week we had 3. We had you and your 2 brothers. Well, we didn't have the 4th brother. We didn't have David, but we had Kenny and Jimmy. All right, Fran, back to you. In your opinion, which activities should the student prioritize the summer before entering college? For example, colleges want the student to earn money to contribute to tuition, and mom and dad, me, which is how she speaks, want the students to earn money for living expenses versus internships that you won't earn money. Finding the time to schedule both is challenging. Yeah, I really like the idea of earning money. I think that is the most important thing you can possibly do. Second would be something I would personally have hated to have done, but it would have helped me a lot when I was in between senior year and college. Is kind of bone up on reading skills and critical reading and getting ready, to be slammed because Walter's going to go to Cornell, and that's a tremendously hard school. So. I guess, Katie, you guys know each other because you're Shami mommies. It just dawned on me. So Shamanite. So I think if you can do both of those types of things, I think that is the best. Earn some money for sure. So sorry I missed your question. All right. So then there was another question that I missed also. Katie, about honors colleges. Okay, is it worth going to school where you get in the honors program even if you get less money? Yeah, that's very interesting. The value of honors if it's not cheaper. I don't necessarily. Well, the value is that you can go to big state school, but it's sort of a college within a college, meaning that you get first dibs at classes. You're living with other more highly motivated students. You don't get frozen out of classes, which is the same thing, kind of the flip side of getting dibs on classes. So there is some value there. You're more likely to graduate in 4 years. I think Patrick's, I'm not worried about him not graduating in 4 years because he's such a good student and he really turned it on strong. So I would rather, all things being equal, I'd rather go to a college that is cheaper. Because most of his schools are the big state schools that some have honors programs, some don't. And I would rather save the money, personally, especially if he's going to grad school, which, I don't know how you feel. It could be at least 50-50. I could see him in grad school, personally. So, all right, what else did I miss here? I'm so bad. All right, got Marie, got Courtney, Martin. Scrolling back up. Middle child, Fran. So funny. Did not skip your question anymore. Funny. So have I addressed both Shami Mommies, both Katie and Fran? Please, I think I did. I would like Pearl here because she helps me with this stuff, because it's very hard for me to talk and go back and pretend my eyesight is okay and that type of thing. All right, so now, I'm not trying to rush you, but now if there are no more questions, I'm going to sign off and let you go about the rest of your days. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you are watching this on replay, absolutely, I'm still going to be monitoring this. Pop in your questions. We usually get 2 or 3 after we sign off. Please, I appreciate all the likes and the shares. Please share this with anyone you think would benefit from this. So comment, share. I don't know what else you can do on Facebook. Tweak your algorithm so that my posts always come up first. Yeah. Whatever. So thanks a lot for joining us. Last call here. I don't see anything else coming in. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And if you have any questions privately, just that you don't want to share with the whole internet, just message me and I will get back to you that way too. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.